Okay, if we can make a start, ladies and gentlemen. If I can just introduce myself, my name's Alan Lewis, and I seem to have been involved with qualification and careers guidance for most of my life, I feel. Up until July last year, I was managing an NVQ assessment centre in East Midlands, and since then, I've taken retirement and I'm working with the ICG as an associate, and I'm also chair of the ICG Professional Development Committee. Right, so it probably fits quite nicely with me that I'm moving from one area, if you like, into another, because I think the changes that we're going to see over the next couple of years are going to be quite momentous in terms of the careers guidance profession. What I intend to do is go through a series of slides with you, and at the end of that, if you want to raise any questions, because I'm sure there will be some that you will want to raise. Okay? But I'm looking at it very much from an institute perspective. And one of the goals, right, is for the ICG, if you like, to become much more involved as an awarding body. And the vision, if you like, over the next couple of years is as follows. Right, to continue to award the QCG, but with more professionalism. Right, you probably all realise that it's the institute who owns the qualification and career guidance. Work with other awarding bodies such as OCR or the Open University to deliver the QCF Level 6 Diploma in Career Guidance and Development. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of that, the QCF Level 6 Diploma in Career Guidance and Development is the acceptable work-based route to work as a careers guidance professional. Okay, and it's different from what it was 2 years ago. Thirdly, introduce something called a Certificate in Professional Practice for those graduating from QCG course centres who want to take this up. Right, now for those of you who are familiar with past career guidance qualifications, you can read that as being the old DIPSI-G Part 2 coming back. Fourthly, to introduce a mini award, which is now going to be called the Certificate in Career Guidance Theory. And that comprises several Level 6 QCF units for those NVQ4 advice and guidance holders who need to increase their career guidance specialist skills. Right, because I think it's been identified that lots of people who did the NVQ4 in advice and guidance over the last 10 years have done a very, very generic qualification. And they haven't really addressed careers guidance skills as a specialism. What that mini award is there for, or the Certificate in Career Guidance Theory, is to actually top up those people in terms of the specialist knowledge and skills which they may be lacking. And lastly, I've got another one there that says, look to develop further awards, e.g. the Certificate in Career Guidance Interventions. And by that we mean interviewing skills and group work skills. Right, as far as that vision is concerned, right, points 3 and 4 there, right, are really already in place. Right, letters have gone out to QCG course centres and employers about the Certificate in Professional Practice this week, and we envisage next week that we'll be hitting the correspondence for what we call the Certificate in Career Guidance Theory. Right, so these are going to be in place and ready to run now. Okay? If I say something about the QCF levels, because again this is something which people are getting a little bit mixed up with at the moment. But we're not talking about the national qualification framework within which NVQs are based. We're talking about the qualification and credit framework, which is different. And I've got up there at level 5, you can see I've sort of put in a question mark that that is the end where the NVQ4 in advice and guidance is probably located. Right, not definitely because they don't naturally match across, but somewhere around there between levels 4 and 5 is probably where you will find the NVQ advice and guidance in terms of equivalence terms. Right, and you'll notice there's the QCF Level 6 Diploma, obviously at Level 6, and at Level 7 is the postgraduate qualification, and at that level is where you will find the QCG. Right, because the QCG, delivered by all the course centres in the country at the moment, nestles in a postgraduate qualification. Therefore, it is a Level 7 qualification. Right, and the guidelines which will be coming out soon, and to a certain extent already on the drawing board, is that if you want to deliver careers guidance as a profession as we know it, then you must have the equivalent of a QCF Level 6 diploma. Right, and some of you will pick this up from John Hayes' speech at ICG conference last year, but that is the blueprint, that is what they want to move towards. So we're talking about having to have QCF level 6 or above in order to practice at something called a career development professional. Right, and I'll come on to that terminology a little bit later. Right, what does the level 6 diploma in career guidance and development look like? Some of you will be aware of this already. There are 7 mandatory units, and you probably recognise several of those, and I'll be referring to a couple of those units again in a minute. But if you look at that, what people must achieve with this level 6 diploma are 45 credit points. And in order to get the full level 6 diploma, you then need another 15 credits, and you have to choose 3 other units from that list. And 60 credits will give you the level 6 diploma in career guidance and development, right, which has been running, I think, through OCR and through the Open University for almost about 12 months now. All right, so it's already in place. Where do we go from there? And what will the certificate in professional practice look like? Right, now this was on the first slide that I showed you, and this, if you like, is what people who've done the QCG will have to do when they now go into the workplace if they want to have their qualification endorsed. Right, and what will they have to do? 4 employee visits, 2 which are STEM related, 3 in-depth studies of employment, 1 FE visit report, 1 HE visit report, 4 assessed guidance interviews, 2 assessed group work sessions, 1 reflective account of partnership working, 1 reflective account of a learning institution's careers education or work-related learning programme, and 1 forward-looking CPD plan. Right, so what we're saying, right, is that people who've now done the QCG, right, have the opportunity to actually say, not only have I done the course in a higher education institution, I can now prove that in the workplace I can actually do the job. Right, now if you go back about 10 years ago, what happened to people who did the QCG is they had to do 11 NVQ units. Can most of you remember that, or some of you? Where was the point in doing a QCG course and then, if you like, repeating that again in the workplace with an NVQ? Right, and that was dictated to us by, if you like, civil servants and the government. What's happened since then, all right, is that when this present government team came to power, David Cameron actually said we need to trust the professionals to do the job. They're the people who need to police this and, if you like, put in place the infrastructure that's needed. Now, part of me says that that's a very constructive way forward, and I welcome it. The second part of me says, well, what he's really saying is they don't want to employ civil servants to monitor us. Right, so there's no one in Sheffield or anywhere else now who can actually say, have you done your 11 units as part of the part 2? Because they're not there. Instead, what this government has done is thrown the onus on the professionals, which is us, to monitor and put in place the infrastructure that's required. And that's really what we're trying to do. Right, so we already have the certificate in professional practice, and it's there for people to do. And we've also been getting inquiries, not from people with just the QCG, but some people who did the QCG years ago and also the DIPCG Part 1 and never did their Part 2 have been asking to do this. Right, because they recognise, okay, I may have done the course, but I've actually I've actually given proof that I can do the job. Well, that facility is now there to be taken up by employers and individuals alike. Right, what does the certificate in career guidance theory look like? This is what was termed, or has been termed, the mini award. Right, and this is the qualification of people who've done the NVQ4 in a very generic way. This is what they will have to need to do to top it up. Right, 3 QCF units at level 6, Unit 3, career guidance theory. Unit 6, use career and labour market intelligence with clients. And Unit 2, reflect on and improve professional practice. Right, now Unit 2 is an important one because not only does it involve looking at reflective practice and the theories of it, but it also has 2 learning outcomes which address CPD, right? And that is going to be very, very important in the future because of developments that we're expecting. Right, so those, if you like, are the 2 new qualifications which are there now, pretty well for people to pick up. Right, the Certificate in Professional Practice, which is like the old DIPSG Part 2, and now the Certificate in Career Guidance Theory, for those NVQ4 people who need to top up their knowledge and skills. Right, I then asked the question, what are the issues for these 2 qualifications and where, in many ways, does it lead us? Right, what's coming very hot on the block soon is something called, right, a Blueprint for Professional Register and Career Progression Framework, CPF, produced by the Career Professional Alliance Task Force, right? And this is the blueprint for the new register for career professional officers that they're looking to implement in the near future. By the 31st of March, this, if you like, is likely to be launched. Right, and that really means, right, as far as the register is concerned, what they're looking for at level 6 are career development professionals to be registered. Right, and that is going to create a marketplace, and it really means that any schools, colleges, employers, customers or whatever, right, if they know, if they want someone who's got the necessary qualifications and skills to deliver this, are they on that register? Right now, as far as this blueprint is concerned, there are 2 routes, right? One is the qualification route, right? And those people who already have DIPSG Part 1 and 2 and certain other likely qualifications can go straight onto this register. Right? Those who haven't got those qualifications, who've got the very generic award, can take the certificate in career guidance theory that I've just mentioned in order to give them the necessary skills and knowledge they lack. Right? So that's the qualification route. What they also got in mind is something called a competency framework route. And that really means that all the people working in the career guidance field who may not have the recognised qualifications, who may be working in the sector for a long time, can use this online resource to actually check what deficiencies they lack and what they need to do if they want to join this professional register. Right, now all this is a blueprint now. This will be published by the 31st of March with a view to implementation over the next 12 months and beyond. Right, and the blueprint also, if you like, includes a career progression framework where people can actually look at where they're at now and also put building blocks up to get to where they want to be. And in most cases we're saying that is to join the register of career development professionals. Now it might be worth you writing that term down, career development professional, because that is what it's going to be called. Not careers officer, not careers advisor, not personal advisor, but a career development professional. That is what the title, that is the title they recognised, that all the institutes involved with the Career Professional Alliance, that's the one they've agreed upon. Right? But there are substantial things to do. Right? You need to look at what the qualifications you've got, and you need to ask, what's in this for me? Do I want to join this register? Is that the way that I need to go? And it's been very, very difficult the last 6 years because in many ways, if you look at the qualifications that people have got, there's a plethora of them. What we're now trying to do is to bring those together so that, if you like, there is a common career progression framework that people can look and see and know where they're going. But there's going to be an awful lot of people who are going to have to need to top up where they are now in relation to the qualifications they've got and how they want to practice. Those are the main slides that I wanted to show you, and what I want to do now is to open it up to questions, because I'm sure there must be plenty that you have, and it's a very topical time. Okay, can I take the first question at the back there?
Hi, as a Connections advisor, some of us have done IAG at NVQ4 and LDSS, so is there a difference if you do the LDS to top up with that?
It is likely that you will have to take that the certificate in career guidance theory.
But that would be okay if you did LDSS MBQ4.
Yeah, it recognises what you must have. There are 4 units you must have, right? And those are the interviews that relate to interviewing skills, right? Develop interactions with clients, assist clients decide on their option, make an action plan and review it. Right, you must have those 4 units, right? But even if you have got that LDSS qualification, you will still need to probably take this mini award.
And also, I'm actually doing the level 5 at the moment that's covering some of these new units, so would you still have to do the level 6 on top as well?
What's level 5?
It's a level 5 MBQ LDSS, and it's more, I suppose, competent based on...
I think you've got to leave that alone. Right, I think you've actually got to look at the QCF Level 6 Career Guidance Diploma.
So that would be a top-up on top.
It would have to be a top-up, yeah. It's moving away from that. You know, we're back into, if you like, a specialist careers guidance field now, and you need to look at the Level 6 Diploma in Career Guidance and Development, or the equivalent. Right? Can I add as well? Is that as well as going down this QCF 3-unit award, right, some higher education institutions are also covering this ground. Right, and as long as they cover those learning outcomes through a higher education route, then that is also equally acceptable. But that will be outlined in more detail in this blueprint.
If you've got the MBQ level 3, 4 and the postgrad, can you go straight onto the register? If so, when can you do that? And then the final part to that is that going to cost any additional money in addition to being a member of the ICG?
That still has to be worked out, right? But there will be fees involved. Okay, if I can just say something about this particular award, which is the Careers Guidance Theory Award. Those 3 QCF units you will have to do through an awarding body like OCR or Open University. Okay? You don't have to do the whole award. We're only saying that you do those 3 units. When you get those 3 units, because all the awarding bodies will do is give you unit accreditation. Once you have those 3 units, you then apply to the institute and you get an overarching certificate from the Institute of Career Guidance. Right, and that is what will say you have done these 3 units and this will give you entry onto the register. If you've got level 7, then you'll go straight onto the register.
How do you do that?
Okay, can I...
Sorry, that was my question as well. If you've just qualified with level 7 postgraduate diploma.
Yeah, if you've just qualified at level 7, you'll go onto the register. What this is actually saying, though, is that you will then have to do, right, the certificate in professional practice. Right, level 7, if I can just say it, right, if you go back to what the QCF is, level 7, right, is you're already there. Right, and the aspiration from, if you like, from DBIS and John Hayes was that QCF level 6 is only the beginning of this. You need to move on to level 7 eventually. Right, those people who are already at level 7, what you need to really prove is that you can actually, if you like, prove your competence in the workplace. And we're not saying you have to do MBQ units, we're saying that you need to do the certificate in professional practice. And that will be outlined in this blueprint. Sorry, shall I take somebody from the front here? Yeah, okay. If you graduated after June 2011, yes.
What about if it's before June?
If it's before, there are grey areas. If it's before, we can't make people do it. Right? We can't make people do it. But from June 2011 onwards, as this blueprint says, you are required to undertake this certificate in professional practice.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Question on that. I've just graduated January 2012 with a level 7. It looks to me like the requirements that are listed for the CPP, a lot of them actually overlap with the QCG qualification. A lot of those assessments I've just been through. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes.
Can you expand on whether I actually need to do the CPP?
APL isn't, you can use some APL, right? That is up to the person who is your assessor or training manager. Okay, we don't want to jump through hoops here, but if you actually look at the one about, say, full assessed guidance interviews, right, well, I think we want to see that having done your course, how are you developing? Okay, now it might very well be that on your course you did some employee visits in real depth. Well, I think that could be accepted through APL. Right, some APL will apply, but at the end of the day, right, this isn't, we want to know that you can actually do the job in the workplace. That is the crunch with this. And it's not new, it's always been that way. Right, what I don't want you to do, for goodness sake, is another 11 NBQ units. Right, we think this is better than that. Do you want to try something in front of you?
Hello. I wanted to ask how you get hold of an assessor if you're not linked to connections to assess you on this.
Yeah, we're hoping we'll have a register through the ICG. Okay, but again, I think what you must try and do if you can is the local regional Institute of Career Guidance network will have probably names of those people as well.
And are there kind of standard costs?
Well, there will be, right? If you're unemployed, right, we're trying to introduce a mentoring system because I don't think it's fair that you can't pay for it. But if you're employed by a connections company or a careers guidance company, right, then costs may be met through them.
Yeah, but I'm employed through a school, that's kind of harder.
Right. But, you know, you'd like to think they might pay something towards your training.
You'd like to think that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You touched on this a minute ago, but I would like you to clarify, please. Other than the QCG, is there any other postgraduate career and talent management qualification that you recognise? There are quite a few out there.
Yeah, I think that's where the competency framework comes in. Right, what you do, it'll be an online resource where you will have to map what you've done to that framework. Okay, but there are certain things, right, you take, for example, I know some higher education institutions are developing, if you like, a sort of a mini award that covers the 3 QCF units. Right, and if that goes through, you know, the awarding institution, then we will recognise that as being the equivalent.
But there are master's qualifications,
Yeah.
aren't there, and postgraduate certificates from.
That's right, and that's where you will need to look at the online resource. There are so many qualifications out there, right, that framework has been developed for that specific purpose.
Thank you.
Okay?
I've got 2 points actually. One in relation to the question at the back, where the person was doing LDSS level 5 on top of the other NVQs. The CWDC were talking about a mini award of some sort that would have a careers transition. Did that go anywhere in the end, that there would be some kind of award to allow you to sort of transfer to careers? And the other point was, you said right at the very start that letters have been going out to employers.
Yeah.
I just wondered who we're talking about when we're talking employers.
We're trying to blitz everybody, to be honest with you. It's not so easy these days, is it? Because if you go back to when we had the DIPCG, there was only one employer. Right, now we're having to hit, if you like, careers companies, connection services, schools, individual practitioners, schools, the lot. Right, and there might be gaps. There might be gaps.
And the LDSS, the CWDC award?
What was that question again about?
Yeah, CWDC, they were going to introduce a transition award that went from LDSS to careers, and I wondered whether that went anywhere. It was mentioned also in the Careers Task Force report.
Yeah, it will need to, I think you need to map it against the competency framework when it comes out.
Right, so they are still working on it?
Yeah, what the competency framework consists of are core competencies and functional ones. You have to hit all the core competencies and a choice of the functional ones. But it's based on the National Occupational Standards.
Hello, I work for an FE college, and I'm just wondering how this new qualification, level 6, is going to be incorporated into the new matrix for staff development and qualifications.
Well, the matrix standard really refers to the organisation, right? But within that, I know they've been working with the CPA to recognise the level 6 diploma as being, if you like, the benchmark. Right, it depends on the route you've come down, right? But what you might have to do, because I think you've done the NVQ qualification, haven't you? right? It just might be that you have to look at the mini award, simply because of the context in which you did that qualification.
I'm doing units toward that mini award, but I'm not going to be doing the full level 6.
You don't, no, you don't. You just have to do the mini award. In that situation, as I said, if you've got the NVQ4 in advice and guidance, right, and you've achieved that within the last 6 or 7 years, the only thing you need to look at is this mini award, or the certificate in career guidance theory. Right, and that will get you onto the register.
Hi, I work in the voluntary sector, and I'm just wondering whether this has any kind of impact on me, unless my funding would come from a statutory source, or whether if I wanted to go into FE or HE or whatever, would there be sort of a need for me to top up my MVQ4?
Yes, I think there will be. Right, I think there will be. And you know, we're hoping that the career progression framework will help with that. The biggest problem we're going to have, right, and this will apply to not just to us but to you as well, are the resources involved. Right, it's all very well, you know, we received probably about £70,000 from the CPA to develop this from money from DBIS. Right, the infrastructure's there. What we're worried about is the implementation of it. Right, and will it be pump primed, or are we going to have to rely on registration fees in order to pay for this to happen? It will happen, right, because they won't want to have wasted the money, but we still need to look at the resources involved over the next 12 months.
You keep saying that you have to have this level 6 top-up or a level 6 equivalent to practice. And you talked earlier about one employer, but I've always worked in the HE sector. Does this apply to all sectors? What happens if you're in a role and you haven't got it, a job description is being rewritten? And
we can't stop you practicing, but what we're saying is that this is what you need to get onto the professional register.
And what does being on that professional register mean? So it's transferable, it would enable you to work within schools or as an independent?
It really is about quality assurance. What it really means is if you're on that register, you've met a certain standard. Okay, and it means that people can recognise you for that standard. Or the incredibly difficult thing has been that there are so many different careers guidance type services, HE, FE, voluntary, whatever. What we're trying to do is to bring that forward to a common, if you like, common understanding, common benchmark. And we see the registers being able to do that. What these qualifications are there for is to help you get on that register. Should we take one last question? Because I think it's, yeah?
I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused. I have an MVQ level 4. I also did the requirements that you put up as the additional requirements, HE visits, FE visits, etc. In order to achieve the level 6, will I need to only complete the mini award?
Yes, you will.
Right, so that is those 3 units that you currently have up on this slide?
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, the only other thing you need to make sure is you've covered the 4 interviewing units I mentioned earlier.
Yes, I've got those. I've got the David Andrews course. I've got a Hazel Reed qualification course as well.
Okay.
So I would only need to complete units 3, 6 and 2. I wouldn't need to do all the additional units.
That's exactly right.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say I think the register is a very good idea to have a benchmark for professional practice. I think that's very good. My question would be, when I look at employment vacancies for careers advisors, some vacancies are only requiring an MVQ3. Do you think with the introduction of the register that employers will be raising their benchmarks in terms of the professionals that they're employing? And do you think that will then have a potential positive knock-on effect for wages?
Oh, I can't answer that last one.
I'm just throwing it more out as a...
Yeah, Yes, if you actually look at when this blueprint is produced, it talks not only about the register, but also the career progression framework and professional standards. What we're saying is that everybody who wants to offer at that level must have these standards. Right? It's got to be the way forward, and it's got to be the institute or its equivalent that actually drives this, not civil servants. Okay, last one.
I'm one of these dinosaurs that happens to have a DIP-CG Part 1 and 2. You said that's a level 7. Is the expectation that somebody who's done the QCG and then does this mini award to get their practical requirements, is there an expectation that they go on to get a level 7 equivalent eventually? Because I got the impression from what you said earlier, there is an expectation that ultimately people will go on to top up to get a level 7 award.
That's the vision.
And is there a time frame involved in that?
No. It's an aspiration. In many ways, that's one of the reasons why we've got Unit 2 in this award, because it talks there about CPD, right? Which really means this is an iterative process, right? It just doesn't end at the end of a qualification. You've got to keep in touch with things, right? And that unit is there to push you forward really in that way. But if you've got the DIP-CG Part 1 and 2, you get automatic entry to the register anyway.
Okay. Just one final point. In terms of paying for this, if you're not in employment, and I guess there are quite a lot of people now across the country that are not in employment for no fault of their own, but maybe through redundancy, etc., will they still be able to do all that they require to become fully competent and qualified?
We hope so. That's where we want to set up a mentoring system, right? Because we can at least start people. What we hope is that once people start doing this, if they are unemployed, at some stage they will become employed, right? And you can only help them if they're on that route, rather than just standing still.
But in terms of paying for it, it's up to the individual, presumably, if there's no employer involved, to pay for it.
We're hoping the mentor system will be free.
Okay.
All right, but on the other hand, it's negotiable, isn't it? But we're going to try our best to help people who are unemployed because they're in a difficult position.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, can I thank you for that? It's going to be a difficult 12 months. Okay, but we're going to.